Hello, my name is Leo, and welcome to a new tutorial by Blauw Films. If you hear a cat meowing or if you hear some rain outside, that's Grigio who is chilling by the window. Today we have a long overdue tutorial if you ask me. We released a music video together with my mate King Khamen about a year ago for his track Powertools. And that music video was shot in a pretty interesting set of circumstances. We were really trying to make one of the roughest music videos we could, both aesthetically and to accompany the overall aesthetic of the track itself. There are a few techniques I want to discuss in this tutorial, both from camera settings all the way to some Davinci Resolve. So, hope you enjoy it, and let's get into it. Alright, we're inside of After Effects. So as you can see, the shot over here is in still ungraded version of the King Khamen shot. And there's a lot going on in this image. And this is all done, most of it is done in camera. Now, our main references for this music video were a Japanese movie called Tetsuo the Iron Man. And except for that are more Stalker by Andrei Tarkovsky and High and Low by Akira Kurosawa. To get this effect, ideally you would just shoot on a very rough film stock and then process it in a rough way and you would have a very happy accident look. Now, we weren't able to do that due to time and money issues, so thanks to some discussions with Eric, our idea was to use a Canon 60D body, which already produces a pretty rough image, and then combine that with 1970s Minolta lenses that were incredibly moldy and had grease on them and scratches, and one of them even had water on the inside. Horrible lenses, but great result in the end, if you ask me. So the idea was, take the Canon 60D body, the Minolta lenses didn't fit on the Canon mount, but with a bit of black gaffer tape, we were able to attach it pretty securely. And throughout the day, the gaffer tape was just starting to lose its stickiness, and we started getting a bunch of light leaks, which are the ones that you're seeing right here on the image in front of you. So if we go into this pre-comp over here, I can show you the original footage. The cool thing about the 60D is that it already has a pretty rough noise pattern, which when it turns black and white, it really doesn't matter too much, and once you start adding more grain on top of, you'll be fine. This footage is 16:9, but we will be cropping it later to 4:3. Inside of this pre-comp, you'll see I have two duplicates of the background footage, and one of them I have offset in time closer to us by 1 frame. Now, the reason why I did that is that if you change the opacity of that layer to about 20 to 30%, you basically create some kind of a smearing effect. You then pre-compose those two layers, and then here, as you can see, I have 3 of those layers stacked one on top of each other. They're all inside of the 4:3 pre-comp, which you can change over here. We have a shift channels effect set to take red from red and green and blue set to off. And then we have a duplicate of that set to add, in which we change the red settings to off and green to green. We have an optics compensation effect set to 12 with a reverse lens distortion on top of. Well, anyone who knows about chromatic aberration, you know about optics compensation. And finally we add the blue light right on top, giving us the original image. Then that's basically it. We then add a adjustment layer, which has a CC Radial Blur effect and an exposure effect. The CC Radial Blur, usually I would use a camera lens blur, but for this situation, the Radial Blur set to fading zoom will give you these kind of elongated streaks that strike right from the middle and then go outwards, and you can really see it in the highlights around the image. We have a feather set to 170, so the transition is pretty seamless. The exposure effect is lowering the edges to give it a bit of a vignetting effect. The vignetting is stronger in some of the shots and weaker in some of the other shots. It really depends on the shot. You know, have a reference next to you and you'll be fine. You'll know what to do. And finally, we have 2 layers of Cine action grain right on top. You can use any film grain that you like, any film grain that closely matches or resembles what you're trying to achieve. Cine action is just pretty rough and it works quite nicely. In this situation, we just wanted it to look like really rough, like someone stepped on it and then the film got like thrown out of a car and then someone stepped on it again. So yeah, well, I guess that's about it for After Effects, and every shot is a little bit different, but it comes down to the same principles. Here, as you can see inside of Davinci Resolve, we have a super simple setup. This is another shot from the Powertools music video, which is quite crazy because it's just like King Khamen is saying half a word, and then we cut to this second shot where he's doing like a bit of a dance, and there's a lot of lens whacking going on, just a few frames, and then we cut to this static shot where he finishes off the bar, and then that's the delivery. By the way, all these little fireflies that you're seeing here, they actually come from digital noise. I know that a lot of people are always saying, well, digital noise is bad and, film grain is great. But as I do so much VFX and it's always matched the digital grain, I do have a lot of digital grain asset packs which you can get on the ArtStation store. And if you crunch one of those down into fireflies and just set that to add, you get this weird repetitive pattern from the sensor. Well, it's maybe you like it. Either way, let's have a look at this shot over here because it's quite similar to the one that we have in the After Effects file. So 2 nodes, very simple. One is the color version and then 1 correction node. As you can see, I have the saturation set to 0 down here. If you set that up, you can see that, it's crazy, but there should be a color version of this music video somewhere. If you know how the scopes and the waveforms work, I don't know if you do, but if you don't, I'll probably make a tutorial about that soon. It's very simple, just think of them as representation of the amount of light on each area of your shot. And the lift basically just lifts, literally, the shadowy areas or stretches the shadowy areas down. Then the gamma is basically an overall contrast ratio. The gain literally shrinks or opens up the exposure, and then finally you have the offset. But the offset is kind of obvious, right? It literally offsets the entire waveform that you built, and it just makes it either brighter or darker. These, however, are settings that will be different for each shot, right? So again, it's very important to just have a reference next to you. If you're using PureRef like I like to use, I just drag some photos in there that closely match either the film grain or the contrast or whatever it is that I'm looking for, and then I make adjustments to each one of those things. For this one, again, as I said, Tetsuo the Iron Man, Stalker, and High and Low were mainly the references. Cool, so that's about it. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for sticking around to the Blauw Films community. I'm glad to see more and more people checking out the learning content, and hopefully soon the group is pretty big, and then, I don't know, we can do whatever. We can organize some stuff, right? Be sure to subscribe if you'd like to see more tutorials, and also to check out our future projects, including a new music video with King Khamen. So, cheers! Hope you have a good night, and talk to you soon. Bye bye.